Hello, everyone. A very good evening, a very good morning, a very good afternoon to everyone, to one and all present here. Yeah, there was a technical glitch from my end, so that's why I couldn't start. So there was a short technical glitch, so I'm really sorry for that. So that's why you all might have, came across that my screen is not being able to share with you all. So this will not happen now. So, a heartfelt welcome to all of you from Dr. Renu Mishra on behalf of Research Graduate. So, I welcome all of you who are present from different parts of the world. I am welcoming you from Melbourne, Australia. And on behalf of Research Graduate, I am today organizing a webinar on systematic review and meta analysis. So, this is primarily going to help all the researchers who are either on their research journey in PhD, or they are pursuing their MPhil, or they are an academician, or they are willing to start their research journey. All right. So, before that, let me give you a glimpse about what we are as research graduate. So, like I always say, that research graduate is a one-stop solution for all your research queries, be it topic selection, be it proposal writing, or it is statistical analysis, editing, proofreading, formatting. You please be rest assured that once you are with research graduate, you are in safe hands. So, if you have any concerns, if you are encountering any problems, please feel free to approach research graduate. And when it comes to approaching research graduate, how to do that, you please can browse us on researchgraduate.com. Please WhatsApp on the given number on the screen, and also you can email with your query and concerns on the given email ID. So, when it comes to this webinar structure, like always, our webinar goes, it'll be a presentation of 90 minutes or so. So it can be like 90 minutes, 92 minutes, 95 minutes, or even 85 minutes as well, as long as our topic in hand goes on to discussion, followed by a series of question and answers, which will be for 30 minutes. Not necessarily cut to cut for 30 minutes, it can stretch beyond that too. I make sure that I take each and every question which is posted by you and I answer all of them. However, there is a request that please don't post your questions between the webinar, during the webinar. I appreciate that if you have any question, make a note of it in your notepads, in your notebooks, whatever you have during your webinars. And once we are done with the presentation, once I am done with my discussion, then you post your queries. Then it is easy for me to take on your questions also, because in between the discussion, in between the presentation, if we to take on each questions, then the other audience, they lose their connect, and we also lose our connect. All right. When it comes to your PPTs, your recordings, your certificates, it'll be sent to you on your registered email ID once the webinar ends. So, whatever questions comes, that how will we get our PPTs, how will we get our webinar certificates, so be rest assured you'll be getting all on your email IDs. Okay, one important question, one important point, that's we are experiencing any glitch when it comes to video quality. Yeah, if you are having any internet issue like I just had one, you might can be having one, but please, for that, increase your video quality to 720p, the mentioned technical the quality measurements which is there in front of you on the screen. you will having a better experience. However, those who have joined us from phone, sometimes for them it gets a little glitchy. So I always say that please join from desktops or laptops. Okay. Okay. So now it's time to start our show, and that is to start the topic with why systematic literature review. And to begin, to start jumping on the topic itself, let's first talk about literature review. Um, See, systematic literature review primarily um, itself can give rise to complete research. Okay, so just a second. So it can give you a rise of complete research. You can entirely dedicate your research, which is based on systematic literature review. Yes, like very recently, one of my student he um, designed his or he developed his research on systematic literature review. His topic was based on systematic literature review. So one a whole research can be designed on that. So literature review, when we say, it is basically a investigation of previous literature, previously conducted studies on a particular topic. Okay, so when we say literature, literature is any published material which the authors has developed on a particular topic. The previous authors have developed on a particular topic. That is literature. When you are studying those literature and you are reviewing it, you are analyzing it from the perspective of your topic, that becomes literature review. Okay. Now, when we add systematic to it, then it becomes systematic literature review. Now, what is systematic literature review? So, systematic literature review means we have certain criterias. Okay, whenever we are doing a research which is qualifying the or which is based on the agenda of or research methodology of systematic literature review, so we have certain research questions, we have certain um, let me just enlarge the yeah screen. So we have certain eligibility criterias. So when we collect the evidences, when we collect the literature on the basis or pre-fitting the eligibility criteria of those research questions or answering those research questions, that becomes systematic literature review. Okay, further to it is, while doing systematic literature review, we always have certain clearly stated objectives. Okay, now here, um, whenever we are doing literature review, okay, we might not have predefined objectives always. Please take it into mind. Okay, in case of literature review, we might not have objectives in our hand. However, when we are doing systematic literature review, we always have clearly stated objectives in our hand. Okay, then a systematic search that attempts to identify all studies. Okay, so a systematic search means systematically conducted search in a order. Okay, so that order is set on the basis of the criteria which you have established. That can be on the basis of the questions which you have set. Okay, then when you are documenting that review, okay, first is reviewing, analyzing, then a part comes documentation. So when you are documenting that literature review, so that is systematic presentation. So basically that systematic presentation will takes place how the findings of the studies which you have taken has taken place, how the eligibility criteria you have decided, what synthesis of the previous studies you have extracted out, whatever research questions you have decided. So, out of all these bases, you will document the report. Okay? All right. Let's move on. So, when you talk about systematic review, so when we say how to go about the systematic review, you may you may decide that there are certain journals out of which I will choose my research from. There are certain website I will choose my research from. This is the way I will present my results. Okay, these are the studies, or on the basis of outcomes of the studies, I'm choosing my research. Or these are the the themes or the theories or statistical methods I'm choosing my research on the basis from. So systematic review always comes on the basis of the predefined. If the PPT is not clear, now it will be clear. Yeah, the systematic review always comes on the basis of a predefined criterias. Okay, it come with a predefined criterias. Okay, all right, all right. So talking more about systematic literature review, when we talk about systematic literature review, basically you are conducting a literature review wherein you have a predetermined criterias with you, that I am talking about certain studies on a particular topic on the basis of certain methods, certain theories, certain themes. So therein you know where you till where you can extend your literature. Okay. Also, here you are not basically you are not getting, sometimes what happen is, while conducting literature review, uh, just listen to me what I'm saying. Sometimes while conducting literature review, you get lost sometimes. What do I mean by lost, as in, we tend to not realize that what exactly we want to understand by a literature review. We are just doing endlessly, we are just doing this. It's been days, months, we are conducting our literature review. In systematic literature review, we have some predetermined standard of bars with us, which actually tells us that beyond that, or beyond which, we are not supposed to go. So when I say beyond which we are not supposed to go, that means whatever studies which are not fitting in those predetermined criterias, we are not going to review them. Okay, we are not going to study them. Okay, so in systematic literature review, we are doing an extensive study, however, on the basis of predetermined criteria. That means, an example, for instance, we are conducting a systematic literature review on aviation industry. Okay, so how aviation industry in UAE, let's say how in aviation industry in UAE is managing the revenue management strategies. So we want to conduct a systematic literature review study on this. Okay, now in this we want to study review management strategy only which are based on fuel management. So, the criteria by which we will extract our literature is on the theme of fuel strategies, that all the organizations which are managing their revenues by controlling their cost on the aspect of fuel. So that's our theme of systematic literature review. Okay, so we have our predetermined criteria, that is fuel management. On the basis of that, we will conduct our literature review. Now, further to that, in those studies, we will see that how the previous authors have studied those fuel management strategies. Maybe some organization, conduct these fuel management strategies by X ways, by Y ways. So that will become our extensive systematic literature. Okay. All right. I hope I'm clear till now. Now, let's have a characteristics look out on systematic literature review. Firstly, it's very clearly stated title and objective. So, whatever study which is on the basis of systematic literature review, it has very clearly stated title and objectives are very clearly beforehandedly. Your objectives are very clearly stated. Okay. Also, your strategies to find out, to search the studies, probably published or unpublished sometimes, you when you're looking for the conference proceedings, it's very comprehensive, so you are not going beyond your predetermined eligibility criterias. Okay. All right. I hope now PPTs are clear. Then is your explicit and justified criterias of inclusion and exclusion for any studies. Yeah, this is very important. Now, there are two types of criterias. One is inclusion and one is exclusion. Like inclusion and exclusion, like I just took an example that, let's say we conduct a study on revenue management of aviation companies in UAE. We just want to study on the basis of fuel management. So that is an inclusion criteria. Okay, because revenue management can be done by companies by many other ways also, but we are studying only fuel management. Fuel management becomes an inclusion criteria, rest others become excluded. Okay. Also, let's say we only want to take the studies which are being published after 2010. So year till 2010 becomes inclusion criteria. Beyond that become exclusion criteria. So all the criterias on the basis of which we are taking out our studies becomes inclusion criteria, and because of which, and which are excluded, the criteria on the basis of which we are excluding our studies, that becomes exclusion criteria. Okay. So methodological characteristics of the studies is clearly indicated, because when you are taking the studies to be included in our studies in systematic literature review, all the methodological aspect is clearly elaborated, and why you are taking the studies to be included in a systematic literature review, you need to be clearly justified. Why not you are taking, you need to be clearly justified. Okay. Okay, I hope it's very clear. See, if PPTs are not clear to anyone, I hope there is some internet issues. If try to improve your internet connection. Okay. Okay. Now the question comes that why we need systematic literature review. Firstly, is that when we talk about literature, as I told you, that sometimes we get lost in the world of literature, because there are many topics where a lot of literature is available. So in those cases, Relying on systematic literature is a better choice, and then you choose your inclusion and exclusion criteria, and it's better to go for the systematic side of the literature review. Systematic reviews also gives you a fair chance of review of reducing biasness, because it's a more scientific approach of reviewing your literature, because you have pre-decided criteria, because why why is this study being included in your research, and why? Because if somebody says that, let's say your examiner says that there is one particular very famous model related to your topic, why it is not there in your research? So if that particular model is very famous and it's not in a part of your research, so you can very confidently say that because it is excluded because of so and so criteria. So it's a very clearly justifiable when it comes to systematic review. So it's a very clear tip also to be given to all of you that um, very often these days systematic review to the topic which are not very deeply investigated. There are a lot many topics which are not deeply investigated in your respective field. In your See, all those who have not experiencing of a clear PPT version now, please increase your or YouTube video quality to 720p, please. So coming back to what I was saying was that in your respective domains, find out all those who are hunting for a good research topic, all those who are looking for it. Look for the topics which are not investigated very vaguely, very very commonly, and you can conduct researches on systematic reviews. Okay, and mm, thereon you can design a good research. Systematic reviews are also very they can also delivers or they can also helps you to design a very good research, because you are giving logic for each study, why it got included or why it got excluded, and while defending your research you give proper reasoning for every research. Okay, and also there are massive number of publications that so many literature is available, so it's not practically possible all the time to review everything. Okay, also when we talk about like I said that there are volume of published material, sometimes it becomes very difficult. Okay, now whenever you are systematically reviewing your literature, so systematic review gives a very relevant logic of why this research is included, why this research is not included. Because whenever you are facing a defense viva, because the reviewer which is sitting, or the examiner which is sitting out here, they also come in with the preset opinion about with your research, and they have a fair good questions about your research, and a couple of questions are from the literature as well. So when it comes to a systematically reviewed literature, you are prepared with the logically answered on the basis of your inclusion or exclusion criteria, which is not possible all the time in your literature review. Okay, so at times researchers stuck while answering that why that research has not been included in your literature review, or why that research has been included in your research review. However, if systematically reviewed, then in that case you can give uh, uh, the inclusion and exclusion criteria being taken by your research. Okay, all right. Now let's have a look on the traditional reviews. So basically, when we talk about traditional reviews are a broad overview where a particular methodological approach is not followed. you do not have a very you do not have a pre-decided criteria to look and search for literature. You collect the information, you summarize the finding. Okay, in that might be some or the other literature get missed out, because you are reviewing the literature. So in that journey, you may or you may not approach all the literature. Okay, so here in the case of traditional reviews, the aim of the author is to is to approach the literature from a theoretical point of view. Okay, so here you might can come across with the biasness that this literature is probably more approachable for me. It's easy for me to find out rather than comparable to the other researchers. So any sort of biasness can be easily can easily touch upon this traditional reviews as compared to the systematic reviews, wherein you have a proper way to synthesize your literature review, and you way approach your systematic literature review with the help of pre-decided criterias, a proper methodological approach. It's a systematic review is a methodological approach, and you synthesize the report on the basis of the best available choices of literature with you. Okay. Okay, now let's have a look on why we should choose systematic review, like advantage of systematic review over traditional review. Okay, so when we talk about traditional review, not always a question will be defined before conducting a literature review in case of traditional review. However, in case of systematic review, research questions will always be clearly defined. Okay. However, in case of methodology, when we talk about a rigorous methodology is not always followed. A rigorous methodology is always followed in case of systematic review. Okay. Data extraction, when we talk about, so there is no explicit methods is being followed. You're just whatever literature is coming across your way. So in terms of finding the relevant data, you're doing it. However, you have a predetermined criteria when you are extracting the information in case of systematic review. So there is the present comparison of both the kind of reviews in front of you. Just give me a minute. um I think somebody need the answers in between the webinar, and if that's the scene, the questions will be answered by the end of the webinar. Thank you, Mr. Akash. So the whole team is silent because no questions will be answered during the webinar. Okay. All right. Now the questions comes: who takes systematic reviews? The systematic reviews can be done by researchers, statisticians, scientists, economists, academicians, people like you and me, right? Researchers. So it depends upon like what your research requirements are. Okay. All right. Okay. Now there, sorry. Now there are some sources of database which are there in front of you, wherein you can access your literature, and which are a good source of literature for a lot of you, which I have just concised. So anybody who is from life sciences, or probably pharmacological background, healthcare background, can have a look on these databases. Okay. All right. Now this is a very important um, slide, wherein um, how to write a literature systematically. Okay. Now, when you talk about writing a literature review systematically, One very important thing you need to take care of, that first thing you need to look out is that what your research questions are, what your objectives for the studies are. If not objectives very clearly stipulated, research questions are. It should be very clearly defined. Okay, why I'm telling you is that, reason being that because literature review you are doing that, you can later on you can add on some studies, you can delete some studies. However, in systematic reviews, your whole purpose is to only look for the studies who clearly fit into the criterias which you have pre-decided. So first you define your research questions, okay, which are well fitted for your studies. On the basis of that, you decide your criterias, which carves the way for your literature review, rather systematic literature review. Okay? Okay. So let's start the stages of systematic literature review. Okay. So firstly, you plan the review. Okay. Like you should have your, like I said, your research questions should be ready with you. Your review protocol, your research questions, your research objectives should be clear with you. Like what you want to study in your research. Okay. So research object questions, research objective. These two things will be there with you. Now, once these things are there with you, then you will go on with your inclusion and exclusion criteria. I'll give you an example of inclusion and exclusion criteria. Like I'll go for this year, like studies after this year, not beyond this year. Okay. So studies after this year, it becomes the inclusion criteria. Okay. Exclusion criterias. Okay. So not any article which is published in which is not published in any peer reviewed journals. That becomes your exclusion criteria. Okay. So on such basis, on the basis of your objectives and research questions, you decide your inclusion and exclusion criteria. Carefully design your inclusion and exclusion criteria, because on these your entire systematic literature review depends. Once this sets, then you start searching for your studies. Okay. Start searching for the right kind of information. Again, what kind of information you want, that will be highlighted from your research questions. Okay. Like whole of the paper is on the fuel management. Like what kind of fuel management you want, on the basis of your objectives. Okay. Then you formulate your own report. Okay. All right, this is again a stage in systematic review. So, wherein firstly you have, this is a little elaborated way. Firstly, you formulate your research questions, you design your research strategy, which is on the basis of your protocols. Here, you are talking about your objectives, your exclusion and inclusion criterias. Okay, you are searching for your databases where you look for your literature, then you'll identify your papers, you retrieve your papers, you'll download them, you'll take out from them. Okay, then you will select the papers which are fitting for the inclusion criteria. Extract, sorry, extract data means extract information. Extract information, then you'll quality appraise. It means you synthesize it, you'll formulate your own report. And formulate researches means you'll document it in the form of a report, or you'll make it a part of your chapter or your research papers or so and so. Okay, so this is basically the stages in systematic review. So I have just decoded it for your better reference, but better understanding, that objectives, operational dimensions, and type of studies design. Type of studies design is whether you want to have your qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods. Okay. Then research protocols, inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, what will be your search strategy, what kind of data collection methods you want. Like, I only want mixed method research, I only want qualitative researches. That's what. Okay. Then you conduct your literature review. While conducting literature review, please use synonyms. Like, for example, if buy means purchase, so use synonym. Kids, children, small people, right? Synonym. Okay. Okay. Select studies. Then, on the basis of your inclusion and exclusion criteria, you start selecting the studies. Okay. Then you like, you choose the methodology, what kind of population you are studying from, because in this kind of review you focus on the research methodology of the literature you extracted as well. Okay. You need to be very clear that whatever your research objectives, whatever your criterias are, your literature should match according to that. Okay. Because your research protocols, when I say research protocols, you should clearly understand I'm talking about objectives and criterias. So now I'll not say research criterias, I'll say protocols. Okay. So you will mention those criterias in your research methodology. Okay. So your data, that means your information you will analyze, will be expected, or it will be gathered on the basis of those research protocols. Okay. Then you appraise, at that means you will evaluate that what these authors will did they say. Okay. Whether the studies which you choose, they meet the protocols which you selected, the criteria which you selected, did they meet those standards or not. Okay. All right. Then extract the data. So when I say extract the data, that means take out the information which is relevant for you, which is important for you, which is sufficient for you. The whole paper you need not to have. Let's say the whole paper comes relevant for the purpose of your understanding, but whole paper would not be fitted in your research. You would be needed to extract the information, and you need to know the extent of the data, and that you will know according to your objectives. Okay. Okay. Then you need to analyze the results. That means you need to see that what is the difference. Like when I say heterogeneity, that means what are the difference in each of the studies which you have taken. Okay. Now, when I say consider running a meta analysis, like we'll also study meta analysis. Meta analysis say statistically understanding the literature. Like, if if this topic is being studied by employing qualitative methods, these are the results. If the same topic is being studied quantitative methods, what are the variation in the results? If data collection methods are being changed, what are the variation in the results? Meta analysis gives you that kind of understanding. Okay. What are the limitations of these literature which has been taken? So these kind of analysis of the results, it takes place in your systematic literature review. Okay. All right. So now it's time for us to take a small break of 5 to 6 minutes. Okay. After the break, we'll meet and start with the webinar. All right. So let's get back. Hello, everyone. So now we are back after the break. Okay. Okay. All right. So we are now back. Now we'll start talking about prisma flow diagrams. First, understand what are prisma flow diagrams. Uh, does anybody would like to type in chat that what are prisma flow diagrams? Would anybody like to type in chat? Okay. See, when we talk about prisma flow diagrams, these are those diagrams when we just discussed systematic literature review, right? So prisma flow diagrams basically helps you to represent, to elaborate, to discuss, right, the flow of your information which you have collected in your systematic literature review. Okay, like for instance, you have collected 100 reviews. Okay, out of that you have excluded 30, you are carrying on with 70. Okay, then for that, you in that prisma flow diagram, why those 30 were removed, why those 70 were included, all those reasons will be mentioned. I'll give you the example, I'll showcase that example of that. Okay, so basically prisma flow diagram, like flow diagram, so it elaborates that with how many number of articles you started and with how many number of articles you ended up with. Okay, so it is basically a very transparent way of elaborating your systematic review, showcasing your systematic review, elaborating, illustrating your systematic review with proper reasoning. Absolutely, the answers given in chat box is absolutely right, right? So prisma flow diagrams helps you with a visual description of systematic reviews. Okay, somehow it's look like this. Okay, so you starts with that you identified the database searching. Okay, so obviously you come across with certain literature with couple of many sources which end up with the duplication, like one particular literature you found out at one sources and another one with another sources as well. Okay, so you ended up with duplication of literature. All right, so what happened is that you would like to remove the duplicated one, so you would like to keep one, which you did here. Okay, then records screen for relevance, so whether the literature is relevant on the basis of the literature research questions and the objective which you decided. I'm so sorry, they're relevant or not. Some of them are excluded. Okay, then full text articles, again they assessed for eligibility. The ones which are not eligible to for further progression, they're excluded. Okay, then the ones which you progressed with, they were included in your synthesis. So this is the way your prisma flow diagram looks like. Another one is this example in which you can mention your number of articles as well. I suggest that uh, you go with mentioning the number of article as well, like that n number of articles you started with, like records identified with database searching was, let's say, this one's, number of articles removed, this one's, why removed, reasons, okay, number of articles screened, this one's, or assessed, these ones. So please, you may please progress with mentioning the clear numbers of articles as well. So here you may see that the proper reasoning for exclusions is given. Okay, now here the inclusion criteria you always mention in your research, that these are the inclusion criteria you are giving. Okay, all right. Now if you see, sorry, I have more. If you see, out of these, the breakup of this 18 is also being given. This is a detailed breakup of the literature which has been excluded. Okay, all right. Another example of plasma flow diagram. So wherein the exclusion criteria is again mentioned. So primarily you see, I think my internet quality is maximum. Please work upon your YouTube quality. The exclusion criteria of all the articles which you remove or exclude, kindly mention, okay, that why the articles were not being included. All right. Now let's talk about another very important aspect of this webinar, that is meta-analysis. Okay. Now, meta-analysis is a way of doing systematic review wherein you can, or rather you are, systematically reviewing the literature from research methodological perspective. Okay, this is a way of systematically reviewing the literature from a methodological way. Okay, so here you can do meta-analysis with as low as number of article like 2 even. So here, statistical way, the perspective of analyzing the literature is statistical. Okay, you're interpreting the findings from the statistical perspective. So here, when you are analyzing the studies, you are mainly focusing on the statistical methods, the data collection methods, the difference in the sample size, like how the difference in the sample size can bring out the changes in the results, how the variations in the variable chosen can bring in the changes in the results, how the extraneous variable chosen, like for example, two authors worked on the similar topic. Okay, the two authors, they worked on the similar topic. One considered extraneous variable, one did not consider extraneous variable. How this presence and absence of extraneous variable has difference in their results. This kind of perspective, while looking out and while reviewing the literature, talks about meta-analysis. Okay, all right. Now, what exactly is the significance of meta-analysis? Why there is an importance of meta-analysis? See, when we talk about meta-analysis, here you are definitely providing a statistical perspective to the literature. The results are more accurate. So if you are conducting a literature from a statistical angle, more logical interpretation has been provided. More logical reasoning is being provided for the further decision making. Okay, so confliction of the data Why is there so can be removed. Okay. Now, how to do meta analysis? Let's understand this. Here also, because it is one way of doing systematic review, your research questions should be clearly elaborated. Okay. So, when we talk about research questions, so here is an example. Like, for instance, are you women who have used oral contraceptive for 10 years or have a higher risk of getting cervical cancer than women who have never used them? This questions recognizes cervical cancer as a result of the intervention's long-term contraceptive use, and it describes the population. So you have this question pre-decided with you. Okay. So once you have this question in front of you, then only you will look towards the literature. Okay. You will look towards the database. You'll go to the PubMed, Medline, Embas, Google Scholar. You'll not go to the Google, you'll go to Google Scholar. Okay. Appropriate studies you'll find out. Now, the most important step in meta analysis is that you need to find out the most relevant studies. You're not gathering studies. You need to avoid duplication. Okay. Please do not go to the studies for the language you don't understand. Don't go for the jargon oriented studies. Okay. Simple studies, it's okay. Because here you are very well understood that you want a study which is clinically oriented. Okay. So choose the study which belongs to the clinical oriented side. So, after segregating the papers which are of your use and which are not your use, okay, so you need to decide that on the basis of your research question that which all research papers are of my use. Like, what are the age of the woman I'm considering, what are the health status I'm considering, and what are the statistical analysis I need to go on. Then extract the data. Okay. Make a spreadsheet, tabular form you can go for. Then record the data. Now, when I'm saying extracting the data from the studies you have chosen. Okay. Like, you can choose the sample size of the paper you are studying, like the literature, from the relevant studies you have chosen for you. You need to extract the information, like this paper have chosen this number of sample size, this was the age, this was the demographic characteristics, this was the result. Okay, hope I'm clear. Okay, so on the basis of this you'll write the results which is there. So this is all clearly given in your studies. You are not assuming anything like we conduct any other research methodological oriented paper. In this, everything is given in your studies. The crucial step is to choose the appropriate study which also is easy on the basis of your research question. Okay, so your sample size, patient characteristics according to this research questions. Okay, like what is the health status, demographic characteristics of the patient chosen, how long the study has been conducted in that particular research, what was the results, all the statistical measure of that study. The chapter 3 of the study will give you that research methodology section. Okay, you need to extract that information for you, and then you need to analyze the data. Now, this section says that once this once this tabular form is arranged, you need to use the statistical tool to analyze it. You can compare the statistical differences. All the details are there in front of you. You can use this, compare the statistical differences by using a forest plot. Statistical measure we used in our example was a relative risk in this particular example, so that you can determine that long term oral contraceptive users are more likely to develop cervical cancer or not, which was our research questions. Okay. So further, the question comes that when we are doing meta analysis, how to formulate a report for it. Once we are conducted, how to formulate a report for it. Your title should be there, your abstract should be there, your introduction should be there, method should be there. I'll tell you in further slides the methods also, the results and the discussion. The basic research which otherwise also you documented, which is very much similar to systematic review as well. Okay. However, the discussion section is just slightly different. For results, which I was just telling you, for results also we can use these kinds of plots when we talk about meta analysis. Okay, which we will just have a look on it. So forest plots, when we talk about, it tells that the total number of participants in the treatment and control groups across all the individual studies as well as the average statistics. So whatever studies you will choose, what is the total number of participants and your control groups? You need not to have to do the total number of participants, whatever the studies they have taken. Another way is funnel plots. So basically, these plots tell us simple. These are the simple scatter plots, which tells that whatever intervention is being chooses, intervention, whatever intervention it is, the intervention basically are the methods to improve any situation. I'm telling you in a very simple method. Interventions are the method to improve any particular situation. Okay, so how much that intervention has an impact, this funnel post can plots can tell you. Okay, then the bubble plots. So these bubble plots can tell you the relationship between the variables, 2 to 3 variables. So now you need to decide, I am looking for the impact of intervention, then I can go for funnel plots. I'm looking for the relationship between variables, I can go for the bubble plots. I'm going to compare between two groups, I can go for forest plots. Okay. Comparison between participant, forest plots. Effect of intervention, funnel plots. Relationship between variables, bubble plots I can go with. Okay. Then last is lab plots for treatment. This is basically for the science studies. One of the several graphs commonly used for display data visually in a meta-analysis for clinical trials, primarily, wherein you are studying whether this treatment is effective or not. So that's why I said it is for scientific studies. Okay. Now, when we talk about it's good systematically review studies or going for the meta-analysis, so meta-analysis is more profoundly done or statistically oriented way of conducting literature. Okay. So when we talk about synthesizing the knowledge, meta-analysis systematically generates a result which are statistically and logically represented. Okay. Systematic review does explains the factor and their heterogeneity. However, the dominance of systematical and statistically heterogeneity is there in meta-analysis. Okay. All right. So now we are open for the questions, and whosoever is there in the questions, I'm open for these. Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's take questions. Exclusion and exclusion criteria. Definitely, definitely. See, inclusion and exclusion criteria are those criterias on the basis of which you are including the literature to be a part of your study. Those becomes inclusion criteria on the basis of which you are not, like, say for example, I'll give you an example. I am just studying the very basic example. I am just studying the literature of past 10 years till 2013. So that becomes my inclusion criteria. Okay, so all the bullet points, simple language, all the bullet points which has to be there in my literature are the inclusion criteria. Peer reviewed journal till last 10 years. Okay, that becomes variables also. Let's say, for example, I don't want any study in which extraneous variables are there. That's an exclusion criteria. Okay, all right. Okay, somebody asked me homogeneity and heterogeneity, and somebody already explained also. Thank you, Akash. Okay, yes. Homogeneity means, see, homogeneity, I'll tell you for the life, like further also. Homogeneity means similar, okay? Like similar studies, similar demographic characteristics these participants have, or the variations in the participants are very less or negligible. Heterogeneity means the demographic characteristics may be very, very vast. That can be, or the variables can be very different. Okay, so that can be there. Thank you, Akash. You are being a really helping hand. Okay. Naveen, I'll definitely will elaborate in one of the session to make these plots as well. There is a glitch at my end. Oh, fine. Yeah. Okay. So let me take the questions from the starting. Mm-hmm. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Forest plot. So basically, Arya. I'll tell you the when we talk about confidence interval in a forest plot is that when you are talking about that that percentage, that confidence interval percentage is that true effect in that population which we are comparing. Okay, that is confidence interval. Now, okay, I am taking the questions from the starting. They were not coming. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm, thank you, Dr. Neeraj. Thank you. Mr. Kash, have you have answered all? How it is useful, Ratna? How is it useful in machine learning and deep learning studies? Um, what, Ratna? What? Yes, Arasi, there will be a computer science literature review. Yes, definitely. So, Deepta, for pilot study, how many participants can be included? That depends. See, although it is not related to today's one, but that depends upon your kind of study you are cooperating. Okay, Naveen, you can connect with me with my through my team. We can get in touch. Afzal, I think how much intervention has been influenced by these studies? You're answering something or you're asking? Sure, sure, sure. We connect in our area. We didn't get papers related to topic. How do we write reviews on the topic? Okay. See, if somebody is struggling to get the right kind of literature for the any chosen topic, then in that case, kindly review the topic first of all. It's not only that you are interested in conducting any systematic review or meta analysis, for instance. It's for general literature review also. Then in that case, I think that the topic which you have chosen is very new, very nascent, that literature review is not widely available, although it is good also, because being a researcher, we also suggest that you should choose a topic that which is not widely conducted. That means there is no wide research literature is available. That means too much of work is not widely done on that topic. Plus, we also say that choose a topic which does not have dearth of topics. That means limited, very limited topics should not be there. Okay. So if very limited research is not being is being done on your topic, so I would suggest that either you try to find literature on in another region on similar topic. Probably you increase the domain of your geographical location. Probably you are finding in India, you may find in uh, in outside India, or probably you increase the um region limit of your literature. You try finding out that. If that does not help, then you try tweaking your topic little bit so that you get more and more or literature. Okay, I think that will help you. Okay. Okay, so you want softwares for meta analysis. So software for meta analysis you want for databases or for arranging your literature. In that case, there are many. I mean, you can distiller SLR is also there. Pico portal is also there. Or in terms of arranging your material, Zotero is also there. Mendel is also there. So when you talk, RAN is 100% free. That's what I know. RAN is 100% free for systematic literature review. Okay, Afzal is asking one question. Okay, how much intervention has been influenced by these studies? Afzal, I'm so sorry. I couldn't understand your question. I read that you were asking something. How much intervention has been influenced by these studies? I couldn't understand. I'm so sorry. My understanding doesn't go beyond this. If you can elaborate. Yeah, it is a technique, Sham Sundar. It is a technique. It's a method. Yes, it's a method of conducting research. uh, Deeks, right? I told you, see, firstly, you need to decide your research question, that this is my, firstly, okay, you decide your research problem, that this is way I need to conduct my research. Dilute it your research question, then come to your research objectives. Okay. Research objective will give rise to your research protocols. Okay. Your exclusion and inclusion criteria. Now, exclusion and inclusion criteria are those requirements which will fulfill your literature search. That, for instance, very basic, very layman, that when we do online shopping, right? I want this brand, that becomes your inclusion criteria. I don't want this brand, that becomes your exclusion criteria. So for instance, I want people from this geographic location, becomes your inclusion criteria. I do not want the studies conducted in this geographical location, becomes your exclusion criteria. Okay. So decide your inclusion and exclusion criteria. Then, on the basis of those criteria, begin your search. Okay. Once the search is done, then extract the information. Again, go back to your objectives. Okay. Ma'am, while collecting review of literature, can we add new question based on literature or objective the firstly? No, Seema, this is possible when you are doing a traditional review. When we are conducting a systematic literature review, this is slightly difficult because then your entire research needs to be changed. Entire literature needs to be changed, because on the basis of your research questions and your research objectives, you are searching your literature, right? If you are changing them, then your literature will be it becomes shaky. Okay. I'll write some tools name in the chat. You may have a look, all those who wants to have a, these are free. So these are free tools. Okay, some subscription basis also I can wrote. These require, the one which I'm writing now, these requires some subscription. So please. So those who are interested in the subscription one, they can also have a look. Sure, sure, sure. Software, the free one also I have written. Yes, Arya, you can perform. You can perform. Yes, yes. Yes, Pari, yes. See, the free ones I have also mentioned. Okay, so do we have any question? Thank you so much. Thank you. Not always, Pari. Sure, sure, sure. Sure, we do that. See, my internet is little bit glitchy, so the questions are coming little slow to me. Okay. Odd ratio, Arya, it is basically it is the ratio of the treatment group which you are taking. It is basically the studies which you are taking on the clinical sides. So which you are for the clinical group to the ratio of the control group. It is that ratio. Okay. Sure, Naveen. Sure, sure. If is or if is all about answering the research. I think Sham Sundar, all the researches are about answering research questions. Okay. Arya, if your odd ratio is greater than 1, so that means your continuous variable is increasing. Okay. And if your odd ratio is less than 1, that means the whatever event is occurring, whatever event is occurring in which you are getting that ratio is less likely to occur. Okay. Sure, sure, sure. Sure, we will. Yeah, sure, Pari, sure. See, world was there without digitalization also. It's okay. See, I'm getting your question a little slow. I'm buffering. I did, Ajmal. I did. See, as much as my technical knowledge was there, I did. Your comments are little slow, and my system is buffering. I have some technical glitch today. I'm working on determinants of antenatal care. Okay. Have reached to the point finding all relevant paper after filtering page. I'm stuck with quality assessment of which truths are the ones which I mentioned. If you're finding for the free ones, the ones which I mentioned above, you can try with them. See what justification we are choosing. See the method, the primarily when we say that why we are choosing with the why we are going with the systematic literature review. In that case, you can say that probably collecting statistical data is not possible. Okay, or it is confidential. We can say that. We can simply say that it is not available, or it is partially available. Statistical data is partially available. So in order to avoid to reach to a unbiased answer, or sorry, biased answer, I opted for a systematic literature review. Okay. Shyam Sundar, I just came across to you. Thank you, Vishwas. Actually, I want to know if these are suitable for confirming hypothesis to be accepted or not. Yes, you can develop hypothesis. Yeah, Pari, your comment is buffering. Just give me a minute. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Swarupa Chakrabarti, your comment is buffering. Just give me a minute. Ma'am, in descriptive research is better. Yeah, your frequency tables, your variability, central tendency, all this is there. Yeah, in descriptive research, when you find the mean, frequency tables, central tendency, mode, median mode, you may go ahead with that. Thank you, Satvi. Thank you. Thank you, Shyam Sundar. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. My internet is giving little trouble today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, it's little hazy today, little glitchy at my end. Please extend my sincere apologies for the glitch at my end because your comments are buffering. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we'll come up with a little more of the elaborative webinars in the in coming future. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.